Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nightmare Nexus, where the darkness comes alive with spine-chilling stories and eerie tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Before beginning, please hit the subscribe button to never miss out on new stories. We have launched a new ebook named Whispers in the Dark, 110 Tales of Terror. In this ebook, you will find 110 short, spine-chilling horror stories. The book link is given in the description box. Go and check it out. Today we are going to talk about multiple stories on most disturbing camping encounters caught on camera. Without further ado, let's get started. The crackling of the fire, the scent of pine, and the distant hoot of an owl. Camping is supposed to be a peaceful escape from the chaos of everyday life. But for some, it becomes a nightmare they'll never forget. These are the stories of the most disturbing camping encounters ever caught on camera. Our first story is The Shadow in the Trees. It was a cool autumn evening when a group of friends decided to camp in the remote woods of the Pacific Northwest. They had set up their tents near a serene lake, surrounded by towering evergreens. The group was laughing, roasting marshmallows, and sharing stories around the fire. Everything seemed perfect, until one of them noticed something strange. One of the campers, Sarah, had brought a GoPro to document their trip. As they reviewed the footage later that night, they noticed something chilling. In the background of a seemingly innocent shot, a tall, shadowy figure stood between the trees. It was humanoid but unnaturally thin, with elongated limbs. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, watching. At first, they laughed it off, thinking it was a trick of the light. But as the night wore on, the atmosphere grew tense. The group began to hear faint whispers coming from the woods. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, until they could make out a single word: "Leave." Terrified, they packed up their gear and left in the middle of the night. When they reviewed the footage again in the safety of their homes, they noticed something even more horrifying. The shadowy figure was in almost every frame, lurking just out of sight. To this day, none of them will go camping again. Before beginning the second story, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. Our second story is The Screams in the Dark. In the summer of 2018, a family of 4 went camping in the Appalachian Mountains. They chose a secluded spot, far from other campers, to enjoy some peace and quiet. The first night was uneventful, but on the second night, everything changed. Around 2 a.m., the parents were awakened by blood-curdling screams. At first, they thought it was an animal, but the screams were unmistakably human. They grabbed their flashlights and stepped outside their tent only to find complete silence. The forest was eerily still, as if holding its breath. The father, a seasoned camper, decided to investigate. He turned on his phone's camera to document anything unusual. As he walked toward the source of the screams, he noticed something strange: a trail of broken branches and disturbed underbrush. The trail led to a small clearing where he found a makeshift campsite. The tent was torn to shreds, and the ground was littered with personal belongings. But there was no sign of the campers. Suddenly, the screams started again, this time much closer. The father panicked and ran back to his family. They packed up and left immediately. When they reviewed the footage later, they noticed something chilling. In the background of the video, just beyond the clearing, a pair of glowing eyes stared back at them. To this day, they have no idea what or who was responsible for the screams. Our third story is The Face in the Window. In 2019, a couple decided to go camping in the Ozark Mountains. They rented a small cabin deep in the woods, hoping for a romantic getaway. The cabin was cozy, with a large window that offered a stunning view of the forest. But that window would soon become the source of their terror. On their second night, the couple was sitting by the fireplace when they heard a faint tapping on the window. They assumed it was a tree branch and ignored it. But the tapping grew louder, more insistent. When they finally looked, they saw a face pressed against the glass. It was pale, with sunken eyes and a grotesque grin. The couple screamed and called the police, but by the time they arrived, the figure was gone. The officers searched the area, but found no trace of an intruder. The couple decided to leave immediately, but before they did, they checked the security camera they had set up outside the cabin. The footage showed the figure standing outside the window for hours, just staring inside. But the most disturbing part was what happened next. As the couple packed their car, the figure emerged from the woods and followed them, disappearing into the darkness. The couple never returned to the cabin, and the footage remains one of the most chilling camping encounters ever recorded. Before beginning the fourth story, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. We have seen the most of our audience do not subscribe to the channel, so please hit the subscribe button to encourage us to create more horror and scary stories for you guys. Our fourth story is The Vanishing Camper. In 2020, a group of friends went camping in the Rocky Mountains. They chose a popular campsite, known for its stunning views and well-maintained trails. The first 2 days were perfect, but on the third day, one of the campers, Jake, went missing. Jake had gone for a solo hike early in the morning and never returned. The group searched for hours, calling his name and following the trail he had taken. They eventually found his backpack and camera near a steep cliff. The camera was still recording. When they reviewed the footage, they were horrified. The video showed Jake walking along the trail, seemingly enjoying the scenery. But as he approached the cliff, he suddenly stopped and turned around as if he heard something. His expression changed from calm to terrified in an instant. He began to back away, muttering, "No, no, no." Then the camera fell to the ground, capturing only the sound of Jake's screams. The footage ended abruptly, and Jake was never found. The group believes he was lured to the cliff by something or someone, but they'll never know for sure. Our fifth story is The Thing in the Tent. In 2021, a solo camper decided to spend a weekend in the forests of Maine. He set up his tent in a remote area far from any other campers. The first night was uneventful, but on the second night, he woke up to the sound of something scratching at his tent. He grabbed his flashlight and looked around, but saw nothing. The scratching continued, growing louder and more frantic. He decided to record the sound on his phone, hoping to capture evidence of an animal. But what he captured was far more terrifying. As he listened to the recording, he heard not just scratching, but faint whispers. The whispers were unintelligible at first, but then they became clear. "Let me in." The camper packed up and left immediately. When he reviewed the footage later, he noticed something even more disturbing. In the background of the video, just outside the tent, a shadowy figure could be seen moving back and forth. The figure was humanoid but distorted, as if it didn't belong to this world. The camper has never gone solo camping again. Our sixth story is The Forest's Revenge. In 2022, a group of YouTubers decided to film a camping video in the Black Forest of Germany. The forest is known for its dark history and eerie atmosphere, making it the perfect setting for their video. But they got more than they bargained for. On their first night, they set up their cameras around the campsite to capture any paranormal activity. At first, everything seemed normal, but as the night wore on, the cameras began to pick up strange sounds, footsteps, whispers, and even laughter. The group tried to stay calm, but things took a turn for the worse when one of the cameras captured a figure standing just outside the campsite. The figure was tall and thin with glowing red eyes. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching. The group decided to leave immediately, but as they packed up, the figure began to approach. They managed to escape, but when they reviewed the footage later, they noticed something even more horrifying. The figure was in almost every frame, lurking just out of sight. The video was never uploaded, and the group has refused to speak about what happened. but the footage remains one of the most disturbing camping encounters ever recorded. It's time for story number 7, which is The Silent Watcher. In 2023, a family went camping in the forests of Canada. They chose a remote spot, hoping to escape the hustle and bustle of city life. But their peaceful getaway turned into a nightmare when they noticed something strange. On their second night, the family's dog began to growl at something outside the tent. The father grabbed his flashlight and looked around, but saw nothing. The dog continued to growl, staring into the darkness. The family decided to set up a camera outside the tent to capture any unusual activity. When they reviewed the footage, the next morning, they were horrified. The camera had captured a figure standing just outside the tent, staring at them as they slept. The figure was humanoid but distorted, with elongated limbs and a featureless face. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching. The family packed up and left immediately. When they reviewed the footage again, they noticed something even more disturbing. The figure was in almost every frame, lurking just out of sight. To this day, they have no idea what or who was watching them. Camping is supposed to be a peaceful escape, but for some, it becomes a nightmare they'll never forget. These stories of disturbing camping encounters serve as a chilling reminder that the wilderness is not always as serene as it seems. Whether it's shadowy figures, unexplained screams, or silent watchers, these encounters will make you think twice before venturing into the woods. So the next time you plan a camping trip, remember you might not be alone out there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more terrifying true horror stories.